come to have a joyful, make a joyful noise and have a good time. I come to hang out and party with my family, and how about that?
It's a good family.
It's a great family. Are you kidding? Yeah, I thank God for them too. Changed my direction. You understand what I'm trying to say? Coming, being in the city environment, it's a whole different environment. This is community. This is where this takes me back to growing up. You know, I've grown up and been through and seen a lot, and you know, I get it. And now He lets me land where I started from. How nice is that?
Amen. Well, Lela, thank you for being part of this conversation. As I've been reflecting these last week about some of the things that's been happening in our world, obviously it's been on my mind and on my heart on how do we respond to what is happening. And so, but before we have some of that deeper conversation, I gotta just tell people that's watching that might not know you. You're a member at Salem Covenant Church.
Yes, I am.
This is your family.
Very proud member. Yes, this is my family.
And so one of the things that gives you a unique voice and perspective for us here at Salem is you're one of our only African American members.
But see, I'm a spirit though. Yep. I don't think spirits have a nationality to them. So
sure.
I've never seen that. I kind of I've been here for the last 13 years, I guess.
Okay.
And it was always a church that welcomed, that the arms were open, and they were very loving, or are very loving. It's a place that I grew up in. Love is a defining factor. So I came and God brought me here to Salem, and I'm happy to be here too, and they happy I'm here too, I think.
They are. They are. I am. It's such a joy to be your pastor.
Yes, thank you.
And to be in relationship with you.
Absolutely.
And it is. I mean, I think you have a lot of credibility in our congregation, and you have a voice. And I think that's part of why we're making this video.
Okay.
It's just for us to talk, and I think the frustration for me over the last several weeks is we all know something needs to happen. How do we respond? The difficult thing is that we don't always know how to respond.
Exactly.
And I keep hearing part of what needs to happen is just for us to get to a place where we listen to each other's stories, where we can give a platform for people to share. Unfortunately, I think what I have even witnessed on Facebook is you have comments and opinions, but it is still not a place where we sit and we can listen to each other's hearts, context. And so I hope this will help people, at least for us to move forward. And maybe, through our conversation today, something can come out of this.
As you speak, it brings to mind, in business, it's each one teach one, and the best form of advertisement is word of mouth. And I'm going to take this as a platform for advertisement, which we can take to a lot of venues.
Right.
We can make vignettes. We can let people hear. So I think it's a start. The other part of it is it's the love that you bring. You have to love something to tinker with it. You have to love something to, when it breaks, to not just to throw it away. So I think that's what you offer, what Salem offers, is the love of it. I think one of the harder parts for my community is the venue. We haven't always been accustomed to a certain venue, so it makes it difficult to be in. The singing is different, although I noticed that now we're making some changes. I'm an old school girl, so us old schoolers can appreciate, but the younger people, and that's not just within our church, but that's just in the world, they don't have the same information that we have, and they're working from almost a bird's eye view of things. So love is a defining factor. Love of community, love of self, love of your children, because they got to go up in this world. So we may as well fix it as much as we can while we're here. Because whatever we leave, that's what they're going to have to try to fix, and they're going to have less window than we do. Each generation it gets more narrow and more narrow.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're bringing up the topic of love, right? Because I have a passage that's been speaking to me, and it's actually in 1 John chapter 2 verses 9 to 11. I'm going to do it from the Message. And it says, anyone who claims to live in God's light and hates a brother or sister is still in the dark. It is the person who loves his brother and sister who dwells in God's light and doesn't block the light from others. But whoever hates is still in the dark, stumbles around in the dark, doesn't know which end is up, blinded by the darkness.
Yes.
And so, as I'm reflecting on what happened with Mr. George Floyd and some of the riots, what's happening in America, obviously color plays a big role in it.
Plays a huge role.
But it is still at the end of it. I shared a little bit on Sunday in my message. It's more than a color thing. It's a people issue. Until
exactly
we can see people the way that God sees people, and love people the way that He loves people, it's going to be a challenge for us to really bring a change.
Absolutely. And when you consider the fact that not everyone grew in love, not everyone even understands what love is. So how do you get that information to them? It's a process that you continue to do. It's a job that you just never leave doing, because the job will never be done. And to get that love out there to folk, or to get them to respond to it, because oftentimes people can take it very personal. Well, who you think why you telling me? That's the attitude that comes from things that they're not accustomed to. So, and that love comes with not just in words, but there's an aura that goes out, but it can only go out if it's really love. So, having a chance to talk and for you to be open and to want to make change, I think is a great step forward. Knowing that there's something different, because my mother would always say, you have to live for your children. The decision that you make today, you make for their children.
Right.
And this is a part of making a decision for your children. You want a better world for them. I want a better world for mine to grow up in.
Right.
And I don't want this, because things are changing now. The world it's not yay or nay. It's not black or white. It's a very colorful combination of things and events and people that are happening daily.
And it's a good thing.
And it's an absolutely great thing that's happening.
Yeah. It is. Like I said, it's a people challenge. It's not a color challenge, right? And because obviously God created this world very diverse, different color, different cultures. And so for us to kind of work through some of that, and again, to be on a place where we can say, man, I love you for the way that God created you and your culture, without trying to change it.
Exactly. Well, I think that speaks to the fact that, the television and the media, unfortunately, as I said earlier, it has a huge role in terms of what people see. For people who are living in areas where there's nothing else to see, there are areas that they're totally white or totally black areas. The only information they get in terms of the rest of the world is through the media.
Right.
And somehow I think that it's not always portrayed equally. One of the things I've been looking at and wondering about, I'm still been around for a couple of days, and when I grew up on television, even though the TV was all white, the role that they were playing was a positive role. so you could get positive from it. You could think of things you want to do based on what you were saying. Well, here I am, fast forward now, and everything I see on TV is a negative role in terms of my people of color. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, where you get all these black folks from? You ain't had them before. But, you know, it just depends on what I feel that they want to put out there. But certainly, you know, it would make it, for someone who's not as, not understanding, but who is not as fluent in people, have not been around a lot of different people, they could be frightening because you frighten them too. It's a fright on both sides. You know, the fact that you're white and I'm black, and I haven't been around you. I grew up in a city with, you know what I'm trying to say, and what I, you know, how to see how I'm being treated. Yes, I'm afraid, and vice versa.
Right.
So it has to, you know, be some changes in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and I'm really concerned about the blaming game that we do, right? This is not the season where we can blame, or even as a white person to feel guilty, right, about being white.
Exactly.
I'm just again, my context with growing up in South Africa, and obviously working through the apartheid time period, and now in South Africa you have reverse racism that is happening.
Really?
And so you have white people that's the minority, and actually if you start to do research and you see about especially white farmers that's being murdered and killed, and so through all of this over the last 20 years, there's been a lot of blaming going on, sometimes from the black community. It's like, and I was always hoping that the next generation will be educated, and that they will create a better world for everyone.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's still a lot of blaming that is happening from 20, 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, but the generations prior to the younger ones coming out have to leave a platform at least for them to begin to work on or work with, because what they know, you know, what they've done, they know. You understand? So they have to begin to build that bridge for them to have something to take over. Otherwise, they got to go back in history to figure out what happened. And so it still comes down to the fact that, you know, those of us who are here and who've been here have a responsibility to our children. And it still goes back to living for your children. And if you truly do, that's love. Because if you love your children,
Right.
then you're willing to do things that ordinarily you wouldn't consider for yourself. You wouldn't. So that's where I think, you know, that'll make a change.
So how do we build that platform?
Well, again, we still go back to love. If you love your children, you'll do certain things for them. If you don't love your children, we're not gonna convert everybody. Everybody's not convertible. Period. And that's the reality. But you know what I'm saying? We as soldiers in God's army, we're looking for soldiers. That's as much as we can do. You know what I'm saying? Each one teach one. You know, so I heard a pastor say once, said, you know, the devil is bold. He's bold. He's belligerent. He's just. So we have to be bold as well in ours. You know, so I think that's it. But love is a huge factor, and education being another factor, and just the devil is just busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Tell us a little bit about your conversion story, just how you met Christ and...
Oh, goodness. Well, I kind of grew up with him because my mother loved the Lord. She's always loved the Lord, and I come from a family of folk that do, and so we were raised up by certain values. The one that I'm going to tell you about that they gave me, and I think I got too much of that, was turn the other cheek. But you know what makes you laugh also makes you cry. And so with turning the other cheek, it has enabled me to be able to reinvent myself daily. Because to turn the other cheek, you have to, wherever you are, you have to just take it down a little bit and kind of view things. But anyway, I was raised a Baptist. My grandmother was Presbyterian on my dad's side, but none to say I was in church every Sunday. and quite busy, just like I am around here. You know, just sharing and talking and loving, and that's been my thing. Communion, back in the days when I started out, we came back at night for communion, and it would be a candlelight service for our communion nights. We had groups, young people's groups that, you know, we all worked together. It was just something that we looked forward to. It was a part of your lifestyle. When did I come to the Lord? My first recollection of when I think I really felt it was when I guess I was 11 or 12 years old. Now, my mother was from Carolina, so we went to church in the summer. We were there. And they had what they called a morning bench. And that's at the first benches in the church. People who was coming into the Christ, they would sing and praise and sing and thank God and all. And when the Spirit would hit you, they would get up and they'd shout and, right. But they would be on the morning bench, so people were praying over them, just praying over people. Well, when I was about 12, I was at my church, Union Baptist, and at one of the nights that we were doing our communion, and that old rugged cross. And that song is still today very important to me because it brought tears to my eyes. And I believe that's when I really accepted him. I had known him before because I knew of him, but I think that's when I accepted him, and I was shortly thereafter baptized. And it's just a wonderful place to be because no matter where it is that I go, I can always go find my family. How nice is that? And a lot of times people struggle now with them going out, not knowing who their family is, and they get involved with all the wrong kind of people.
Wrong family.
Wrong family, because they don't know, you know. Family is a strong sense of barometer. By knowing my family in all of my days in college and working and being in the world, everywhere I go, I look for my family. And then I'm okay. And one of the things, and I know my church brothers and sisters here can attest to, I touch everything. I gotta get up. I can get up that little flimsy, that little handshake like this here. I get you.
And so I know isolation has been very difficult on you.
Isolation threw me off there. I thought myself, I said, Lord, what's going on, Jesus? I said, don't have no energy for anything. I don't want to do not a thing. So I'm sitting there, I said, well, Lord, let me go check my blood pressure. Well, it was okay. I don't have any other issues to concern myself with. So I said, well, I was through. So I talked to my daughters all the time. And I talked to my daughter, Natalie, my baby girl. And she said to me, Ma, she said, you don't have no fuel. I said, fuel? She said, yeah, you ain't got no people to talk to. And to give love to, and to be out of the mouths of babes, right?
Right. We don't get opportunity to travel a lot.
Okay.
Or our interaction with different cultures, different race. And so I want to use this platform at this moment a little bit for us to kind of get a glimpse maybe into how the African American community is seeing and viewing what is happening in our world right now.
Well, one of the big things that is happening is the fact that for those of us in the Christian community, even outside of that, God can use the least for the most. And that comes out when it comes down to Floyd, because he's not the first one. It's not the first time it happened, but somehow it was the right time. So how are they viewing that? I think it brings a certain sense of well, they see it kind of. You know, what's going to happen with it, we're not so sure about that going forward. There are a lot of things going on now. You know, we have a presidential campaign going on, and, you know, we're not so sure in terms of how it's going to be used. Will it be used for our good or not? Because certainly it's a great platform. You know, the numbers in advertisement, again, I go back to that. You know, when you have the numbers, then you have big audiences that you can play to. So however they take this, whatever side of the road they're on, will determine, because it's a usable platform. And, you know, the devil's looking just like everybody else is looking. So I think it's a wait and see game. I don't think that any of us are jumping up thinking we made it. You know, we've been here before. Just a bigger platform today.
Right. And that's the piece that worries me. I mean, obviously there's fuel and there's passion right now for what is happening. Will we still be passionate in 2 months about this?
I don't know. It really shouldn't be, even in 2 months, we should have made some moves forward where the fuel that we've gained here, the passion we've gained here, should be moving into another venue. It shouldn't be still in the same passionate place, because then the same thing will be happening that's happening right now.
Right.
And that's not what we're looking
Right.
for. So you know, again, you know, it's fuel. Energy is we all get a dose of it, 24 hours in a day. And it's up to us what we do with that. Everybody's on a different page when it comes down to energy. Some use it for the good and some use it for the bad. That's their choice. So, and I think, you know, we just have a lot of people right now. And how it's played out is yet to be seen. But it'll be a difference in 2 months. But then we got the pandemic is going on too. So
Right.
so much going on right in this place. So it's,
Right.
you know, it's going to be kind of hard to discern really what's affecting what.
Right. And I think the thing that makes believers different in this situation is that some of these topics needs to just be part of our life.
Okay.
And we shouldn't wait for the next incident.
Pandemic.
When we think about Micah 6, verse 8, it says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God." And I think of another passage in Proverbs 31 verse 8. It's actually a passage that I fell in love with several years ago in youth ministry when I was working with human trafficking.
Oh,
And the passage is this: "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves.
that's right.
Ensure justice for those being crushed." And I said, I understand that at least in our city, in our country right now, the topic is black minorities and some of the injustice that is happening.
In the criminal justice system predominantly and specifically right now.
Right.
Right now.
Right. And so that's the in our world right now. But some of the stuff is happening around the world, right?
We're seeing this with Floyd.
Yeah.
Look at the people that are responding. This is all over.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. It's like the pandemic. It's all over the world that this is happening. So it's a pandemic of sorts. So the way we treat one pandemic, maybe we should treat another pandemic. How about that?
Right.
We're trying to get rid of the coronavirus. We're taking steps to do that. So perhaps if it's viewed as a pandemic, and the world is showing us today that it is viewed like that. It's all over. This boy was having marches all over the world. Isn't that what makes a pandemic? So then now that we can label it, you know, as opposed to before calling it whatever we want to call it, let's just call it a pandemic. And let's use them the same thing that you would use on a pandemic and work that out. And those of us in our community, we still have our own work to do, but certainly we need help too. And if everybody's giving something, it'll change the attitudes and they'll be more receptive to coming in to hearing what you have to say. You know, because the scriptures that you're reading, I understand that and I applaud that and I can accept that. But for somebody who's on the other side of town, I'm not trying to hear it.
Right.
It means nothing to me. You understand? Without some work, you know. Now if something else is happening and seeing some change, when you begin to see change, you become hopeful. You understand? Then you can be able to come in and sit in church and listen. Right now, there's too much else going on for them, you know.
But I think, you know, we will have a different driving force if we have scripture. So because this is the hopeful, the part that I'm hanging on to is this: if we can get passionate about these powerful verses, that this will guide us and it will steer us, it will give us a clear vision how to speak to everything that's happening in our world. And because we need the church, right? We need the church in America
Exactly.
to some of the topics that's happening. to speak to the injustice. We need the church to speak to the injustice that's happening in South Africa, into India.
Right.
And then we know that it's not going to just fizzle away in 2 months because we don't see the topic on Facebook. There's going to be an internal force and that is driving us.
Right. Right. Boy, it's it's really kind of complex because how do you get those of us who know and love the Lord and are called accordingly? How do you get us enmeshed in a system that is really trying to push us out? I mean, because we still need the numbers. We can talk and we can meet with people, but until they become open to hearing us, they can't hear. And we need these other forces. So when they're setting up these, the president had a round table discussion yesterday. I don't think that was there any ministers there? I'm not recalling, but I'm saying, we need to be an integral part of everything that's going on. When the face mask for the pandemic, we need to be the face mask. I mean, we should be a part of that, and to do that is to get out and to share with people and to try to help people, but we can't do it. I say we can't. We're not going to be as beneficial as if it's being demonstrated. It's work, but I'm hopeful that it can be done. And the fact that you're talking says that's indicative of Duluth, though. I've been asked the question, does racism exist out here? I said, well, I don't know about no racism, but maybe we got a little prejudice going on. And that's okay. We all should have, I prefer this to that. That's okay, that's healthy. But no, and then the next thing I'll say, well, then spell racism for me. And that's the first question, because if you can't spell it, then we got to start in this other class, because you're in the wrong class. We got to go back.
How has racism affected your life in specific, tangible ways?
Okay, I don't know that I personally, I can't say personally that it has affected my life, because I don't pay attention to it. And somehow, I'm sort of oblivious to it. It has never hit me hard. It's not like I've been in a situation where something was done to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? When people go through trauma, that's an effect. When you go and the police hold up a gun to you, you know what I'm trying to say, and grab you and put your hands behind your back and you're a female, that's traumatic. I don't have any of that. You understand? The hardest thing I can remember is I had relatives in Georgia, and I was going to go to visit. My mother wouldn't let us go to Georgia because it was too racist back then. And so when I got older, we did go travel to Georgia, and I was walking up this road. Everything was roads back then. And there was a truck coming down. There was like two white boys in the truck. And if I wouldn't move the other way, I think they would have hit me. So, but that's as close as I, but I didn't, I just jumped out of the way, and I'm thinking, wow, that's why Mommy didn't want me to come here, years ago. So I don't have that. I have been very fortunate in my life that, I set goals and I just go after them. I'm too busy doing what I'm doing to notice what's happening around me. I don't think
It's good to hear that perspective, right? Because again, sometimes with the news and the way that they're portraying it is that it's everywhere.
Racism.
Yep, and that every black person in America is experiencing that.
Well, here's what I will say to that. My take on it has been different now. I have two grandsons. And the way that they view, the lens that they look through, is totally different.
Share their ages. How old?
Aaron is 30.
Okay.
And Amir is 27. No, 21. There's 7 between them. 22 now. Yeah. But now Aaron, the older boy, sees it a lot differently than does Amir. Amir was raised out in Duluth. He's been there since he was about 8 years old. So he's got a whole different. Well, Mom, I know he knows everybody out here, so he has a whole different perspective in terms of, because he knows the police. He just knows. He's just known. But my Aaron, the older boy, he came out here when he was already 21. So he has a different view, you know what I'm saying, in terms of how he is approached. And, I talked to him about that and try to share things with him. He said, well, Ma, you don't understand. One example I think of with the police here was that they stopped him because he had the little stickers you put up that you hang in your car for this, to make it smell good. He had it on his sun visor. Well, certainly, you listen, there are laws, I know, but it's who you choose to use it with. Because people ride around with that, and even the handicap sticker sign, so when it's like whenever you want to get to somebody, especially a black man, you can always find a way to get to him. Whereby if it were a white boy, they're not after him like that. And I think that's a big, big disparity. And that, if you want to call it racism, then I can go with that. But if you just want to call it your prejudice, and you are, or that is a saying that goes, there's something about you that, for whatever the reason, I don't like it, I'm not going to like it, everything I can use, I'm going to use it against you, period. So, I think that's what it is.
I'll have to tell you a funny story with the car deal, because we just moved to Fairmont. It's a small little town, southern Minnesota, about 11,000 people. And somebody donated an old station wagon to my wife to drive around. I think we had to pay like $2 for the station wagon. But they left.
It's called a quick claim deal.
Yeah. Exactly. And she had, they left two of those big white dice.
Oh, balls hanging. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
And she got pulled over. That was lucky she didn't get a ticket, but she got a warning.
That's right.
And so you talk about laws.
But let me give you the other side of that.
Yeah.
And that she's a female.
Yep.
By the way, now when I came here, we were on the west side, and I was stopped. I don't know what I was stopped for, but anyway, it's funny because I've been through this before. I lived in Jersey, and I had a home in the southern part of Jersey, which was a smaller community. And was one night late, I was leading some friends out over to Philadelphia, and the police got behind me, and I pulled over to try to see if my friends were still back. Anyway, he pulled me over. And so I hadn't done anything, but here's the deal, and this happens in every town. When they want to get to know you, they find a reason to pull you over. And that's why I was stopped. So when they stopped me on the west side, I said that to them. I said, "Oh, okay, you want to know my name? I know you want to know who I am. Well, Well, I didn't get a ticket, but I mean, you have to, because that's their job, and I'm not mad at that. If they happen to catch you wrong, then that's on you. But the point is that you're new in town, I know this, and let me find out who this is. That's the first. Now, however they discern that, if it's the fact that, like I went to court on that, because I went to court, I said, no, you just stopped, I had a white car, a big one too. And, everybody in that town was in bed at 11 o'clock. Well, I've always been fairly independent, so I don't have to go to bed at 11. Anyway, I went to court, and what the judge wound up doing was they gave me it and then suspended it. So they let him bring me down, but then they charged me and then just suspended it. So, because I said, no, you just stopped because I just came from the car wash anyway, with my car.
Grandsons, what are you teaching them right now?
Well, I think I'm maybe not teaching as much as listening more.
Okay.
Because teaching is something that I do all the time, and I think that's the womp womp. You got to get off of that because you really turn them off. Because once you start teaching,
you got to live it. Right?
Well, yeah,
message.
You're living it. Well, I guess maybe so. You live it to the degree that you can live it. None of us are perfect. Do you understand? So you do live it to that degree. But most importantly, I think once you start to listen to them, you kind of equal the playing field. You even the playing field. And now they're more inclined to listen because all these years, all you've been hearing is and then, and they feel like you don't understand. You don't understand. So it's through this that you're giving your attention. And one of the other things I'm learning too with my grandsons is I have to first say, okay, I understand. And first qualify what their point is. I haven't been doing that. I'm always so busy telling what I need to, or telling. Delivery means a lot. Not just at home with mine, in the world at large. Delivery is that you can either shut a person down from the door, or you can open that window. That's up to them, depending upon how you approach them. So, and my children, I feel like, well, you should know better because you know, but they still live in a world outside of the know world that they do. That's a pretty powerful world. So they have to know and understand. And so listening, I think I'm doing more of now with my children.
When you hear the term racism, two questions. What images come to mind?
Okay.
And do you think of racism as a systemic problem that exists in the institutions of our own community?
Now, when you say our own community, I'm gonna take a second question. Own community. This community right here, we're going to everything live in Duluth, okay? Do I think it exists here? Systemically? Let me tell you what I think about Duluth. I think Duluth is a place where my sisters and brothers, I say because I'm Scandinavian from New Jersey, came into this place. And by the way, everybody was given a territory. I grew up with Jews and Italians. Everybody has a spot. As an African American, we don't have one. Something that you have, and what we did have, you burnt it down. You know, different. Well, history will teach you some of that. But my point is that I came to a place where I said, yeah, these people carved out a nice little spot, and they take good care of it. And guess what? And they will share it. They want to help. So that's my concept. Do I think there's racism here? I think that, I would say to people sometimes, they say, well, I can't get no job over here and this, they won't hire me over here. I said, wait a minute now. First of all, this is their home, and they want to make sure that everything is covered. You can't let people come into your home and take over the key spots. You can't do that until you discern who and what they are, because that's what keeps this whole place stable. So my thing is this, and the thing that I want our people to know when they come here, you have to learn how to visit. You gotta come in with a certain attitude. Mm-hmm. And visiting people, if you visit, you'll treat them the way you want to be treated if they were visiting. So you're a visitor. Just say, first of all, you say thank you. You know what I'm saying? I'm a social worker by degree, but you know that. And I worked in the prison system in New Jersey for a few years, not very long. But when I would get out in the yard with the fellas, the first thing I say to them when they come to me, I said, wait a minute. Thank you is the first thing you say. Because when you say thank you, a whole lot of wonderful things drop down under that. When you wake up complaining, there's a whole lot of stuff drop under that too. So now I said, don't come up here to me with that, because you're on your way, this halfway house, be going out soon. I can trade your spot with a whole lot of boys over here that would be willing to be here and to get up and say thank you. Period. So that's what I think. So Duluth brings about a lot of things that I have a lot of respect for, a lot of love for. And if you don't want me to have the job, fine, I'll just have another one. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to thank you, first of all, and to take what you're offering me. And when I get to the next level, I'm sure there'll be something there waiting for me. That's just how I take it. So systemically, if that's, and there probably are people here who are racist. I ain't gonna say they're not. I can't qualify that. I just don't remember seeing them. And I have a family, so if it is, I probably won't see it anyway. Because, you know what I'm saying, I come into a certain group. So it's like, Right. And that, going back on that, I would tell my grandson something. I said, well, Aaron, get you who your friends. You gotta, if you're with certain people, you're doing certain things. But he still had a lot of the culture coming from the city, and he was seeking out the same culture that he was accustomed to. Hadn't made that transfer yet. But thank God for 30, he's getting there. Yep. The first question, did I answer both?
Yeah, so what images come to mind as you think about racism?
Not even a person, it's like something between something frightening, something mean and mad looking. I mean, racism it doesn't even come in a person's body. It comes in a state of mind. It comes in oh, that's racism right there. It's like, I've never seen it. I mean, I've read about it, and it still brings that image to mind, Because if you could paint a picture of racism on a person, then how many of us look alike? You don't want to do that.
Right.
It's an attitude, and it's like anything else. When you're happy and smiling, your face tells a different story than when you're angry and sad. So it's not even that; it's the expression. So it's just this.
Okay. What's the message that you want to leave for whoever is watching this?
Well, one of the challenges that I have, which I've shared with Pastor, is that and I've shared with you all now, I'm going to have to recalibrate. I'm going to have to grow another arm because these two arms may not work in what we're going to be facing going forward, or what we want to face, or the changes that we want to make. So I would just suggest to everyone, it's being open and available. And sometimes those of us who've lived past 50, or a little less open and available, because how we've maintained ourselves to get to 50 or 60 has worked for us. And it's not easy to change. Why would I change something that's been, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. But we all have to kind of view ourselves right at this point that it is broke. So we can all just have the mindset to want to make some changes, to fix it. And that comes with love, because we love our children. We can talk to them and listen. We have our grandchildren. We can talk to them and listen. And our husbands or fathers or sisters. I think listening is going to be a key, because with listening comes understanding. And of course, once you understand something, you can change it. But you can't change it if you don't understand it. It's like a ghost, So I think listening is what I would, and listening with love. Listening, wanting to hear what you have to say. I want to know what you're thinking. I've said what I had to say. I've been saying it for 50 years. And I'm stuck right now, though, but you're going to help me to get out of that place, which is it's a win-win on both sides.
Yeah. Well, we need to be people or agents of hope in this season. We have such an important message. And obviously we know as believers, first of all, that message of hope for us is Jesus.
Amen.
Is the cross. And like I said, we don't have the 5 steps. I wish we had the 5 steps to say, just follow these 5 steps and it's going to deal with all of the issues. And we don't know what that is.
But and let me just inject here. And because of that, kids are tired of the here. It's womp, womp, womp. So no, we can't just tell. We have to be a part of and demonstrate. And that's where the listening comes in. It's a partnership. And I think the more we're willing to partner, which means that okay, fine, you want to go left, we'll go, then they'll become more involved. I think that's it. But when we're going to stand up this way and this way, it's not going to work anymore.
It's not helpful.
It's not helpful.
Right.
On either side.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we have to come together. But like I said, we get to be the agents of hope.
Okay.
And we need to have more of this, just if I can place myself in your shoes and understand your story, it's going to create compassion.
And you're a compassionate person. It's going to give your compassion a track to run on. Now you can go out and you can talk to more people because you have another perspective. It's not just yours, so you're able to, I can talk to another. As I can, I see people all the time and invite them. You know what I'm saying? But now with that, not so much the passion, the ones that I run to in my daily existence, but now I have a purpose now. I've got to go, come on, I need you to come over there with me. I want you to, there are people I've invited 2 or 3, I just didn't follow up. I'm thinking there's more of a follow-up now because we've got I'm doing something. Do you understand? And I need you and people that you reach out to, they will come help you. You asked me to help you today. You know what I'm saying? And people are willing to do that. So I think this is a great step forward. The fact that you're doing it, I'm very proud of you for that. And opening that up, and the fact that we're talking and you're understanding and I'm understanding, and I want others to come and see what we have here because we need it.
Right. Lela, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you for having me.
I love you. So glad you're in my life.
Love you.
So glad you're at Salem.
Stay in your life, yeah, and let her know. I tell you how good you look too. So
well,
go home, don't forget.